Daniel Goddard is leaving General Hospital after Dalton's shocking fate. General Hospital fans knew Henry Dalton was headed for trouble, but nobody expected his downfall to come this quickly. After weeks of tension bubbling under the surface, Daniel Goddard's time on the ABC soap has officially wrapped, closing out a storyline that was teeming with secrets, showdowns, and alliances. Why Daniel Goddard is leaving General Hospital. Goddard's Professor Dalton was shot dead on General Hospital by Sidwell, leading to his exit that comes only a few months after he first arrived in Port Charles back in April. The show made it official, explaining that Dalton was always meant to be a short-term character. A spokesperson told Soap Opera Digest, "We can confirm that Daniel Goddard has exited General Hospital as Professor Henry Dalton." Executive producer Frank Valentini also wished him well and said, "We wish him all the best in the future." Dalton's storyline blew up in the November 19th episode, when all his secrets finally caught up to him. After getting drunk and confessing to Jocelyn that he'd been running illegal animal experiments. Emma had been side-eyeing him about this for a while. So, he panicked and ran to Windermere to meet his partner in crime, Sidwell. The meetup went south fast, and Britt, furious over all the lies and troubles Dalton created, pushed Sidwell to cut loose the professor before he caused even more trouble. Sidwell pulled the trigger, killing Dalton and closing his run on the show. Even though Goddard's run on General Hospital was short, he definitely left his mark. He actually first auditioned for the show back in 2005, long before his long stretch on The Young and the Restless as Kane Ashby. Once he landed on GH as Dalton, his storyline quickly connected with Emma, played by Braden Bruner, and fans loved their screen chemistry. Bruner called him incredibly natural and a grounded performer, and Goddard showed the love right back, saying she was an absolute pleasure to work with. Henry Dalton's sudden exit leaves a lot of drama behind in Port Charles. Port Charles had always been a city built on secrets. Some smoldered quietly beneath the cobblestone alleys, whispering through the docks when the tides shifted. Others exploded into the open like firecrackers at the nurses' ball, scattering sparks across the lives of its layered, complicated citizens. But every so often, one secret cracked the foundations of the entire town, loudly, violently, and with the kind of emotional aftershocks that people felt for years. Dalton Pierce's final moments did exactly that. And behind them stood the man who had brought Dalton to life, Daniel Goddard, mysterious, magnetic, and impossible to ignore. Now, after a storyline that had the General Hospital fandom spinning theories like cotton candy, Daniel was officially stepping away from the show. For the studio, it was a casting shift. For fans, a heartbreak. But for Port Charles? It was the beginning of a new storm. The man behind the shadow. Daniel Goddard had arrived in Port Charles the way all great soap characters do, unexpectedly and dripping with narrative potential. Dalton Pierce was introduced as a former mercenary with ties to sunny Corinthos' darkest days. A man haunted by the ghosts of choices he couldn't outrun. Tattoos etched like codes across his skin. Eyes that saw more than he ever admitted. A past wrapped in smoke. And a future barreling toward him faster than he could rebuild his life. From the moment Daniel stepped into the role, everything clicked. His Dalton wasn't a caricature of a brooding tough guy. He was layered, human, fragile beneath the armor. Fans fell hard. So when rumors began swirling that Daniel had signed only a one-year contract, the comment threads ignited like matches in a fireworks factory. "Dalton cannot leave," one fan posted, followed by 29 crying face emojis. "He's the best new addition in years," another insisted. "Give him a redemption arc, for God's sake." But Port Charles rarely gives redemption without a reckoning. 2. Dalton's shocking fate. The episode that changed everything aired on a rainy Thursday, dark skies mirroring the mood on screen. The rumor mills had whispered for days. Something big was coming. Something irreversible. In the warehouse district, a confrontation had been brewing. Cyrus Renault's men had cornered Dante. Shots were fired. A ricochet sparked a fire. Smoke filled the frame. And out of the haze came Dalton, face streaked with ash, determination burning in his eyes. It was the kind of sequence soaps dream of, cinematic, tense, and dripping with emotional stakes. Dalton lunged into the line of fire, pulling Dante behind a crate just as an explosion ripped through the building. A steel beam collapsed. Dalton shoved Dante out of the way. Then everything went still. When the smoke settled, Dalton lay motionless beneath twisted metal, breathing shallowly, eyes flickering. Dante's voice broke as he called for help, but the warehouse was collapsing by the second. Dalton looked up, a faint smile haunting his lips. "Guess, this is me making things right," he whispered. The screen faded to black before the paramedics could arrive. The next episode confirmed what fans had feared. Dalton Pierce had succumbed to his injuries off-screen. A photograph of him, brooding, beautiful, unforgettable, rested beside a bouquet of white lilies at Jish. Sonny's voice cracked as he said, "He saved my family. He didn't owe us that. But he did it anyway." And just like that, Daniel Goddard's run on General Hospital was over. 3. The fan uproar. Within minutes, social media exploded. Hashtag Dalton deserved better. Hashtag bring back Daniel Goddard. Hashtag Poor Charles Mourns. Fan edits filled timelines at light speed, slow-motion shots of Dalton staring out at the harbor, screenshots of his rare smile in the hospital hallway, clips of his heated confrontations with Sonny set to emotional indie songs. Some fans demanded a resurrection. Others demanded explanations. Most just cried. But behind the scenes, Daniel Goddard was preparing a very different goodbye. For Daniel Speaks. On a chilly Friday morning, Daniel released a statement on his personal page. It wasn't dramatic or cryptic, just honest, reflective, and heartbreakingly sincere. Playing Dalton Pierce has been one of the most fulfilling and unexpected journeys of my career. This character challenged me in ways I never expected. Emotionally, physically, even spiritually. The intensity of his storylines, the depth of his relationships, and the passion of the General Hospital audience made this experience unforgettable. It was always intended to be a short-term arc, but it grew into something bigger, thanks to all of you. Thank you for embracing Dalton. Thank you for embracing me. He ended with a single line that fans instantly transformed into digital art. Sometimes the characters we love most are the ones who stay with us long after we say goodbye. The comments section swelled with love, memories, and pleas for his return. But the real story was still unfolding. Behind the curtain, why Dalton's story had to end. According to insider whispers, fictional in this creative piece yet fitting the tone, Dalton's story arc had been planned months in advance. He wasn't meant to be a villain or a hero. He was crafted as a catalyst. Every classic soap needs a character who arrives like a match and sets half the canvas on fire. Dalton was that spark.